What's that tune to?
I don't know.
The feature tune. That's the Wii song. That's what happens. You know, you go to the toilet and you have to make up this tune.
That does sound like that, yeah.
It's like apparently Peter and the Wolf when he goes to the bathroom.
Oh God, that is perfect. Hello and welcome to Quackcast number 353. This is the Ramblecast, or we might call it the Beautycast, because that seems to be the subject that we would like to chat about on this Quackcast, among other things.
We couldn't think of anything else. We just started talking about it like aimlessly, and then we thought that we didn't want to change subjects, so we're probably going to not know much about what we're talking about, but we're going to try our damnedest to make you think we do.
But what else is new, right?
Exactly. Beauty is something. It's not universal. Well, we'll talk about that later. But first, I've got to introduce the people of the Quackcast. Of course, I'm Ozone Ocean. We have the marvelous Pit Face here. Hello, Pit.
Hello.
We have the marvelous Baines
As you
Face.
said that, I was stretching my pits. Did you see that? Yeah.
Very impressive pits.
Yeah.
Totally shaven pits. Oh my God, that's obscene.
They're not, actually. They're pretty bad right now.
We have
But
Baines.
it keeps me warm.
As well, and he has incredibly he has two
Thank
beards
you.
under each arm. I mean,
Yeah.
each arm has two beards, not just one. I mean, when you're that manly, that's what happens.
Yeah, they give you extra beards.
Precisely. They just hand them out.
Yeah, they come to your door.
Gotta find some way to put them under your arms. Well, that's a good place, you know. And we have Tan Serene, who is not manly at all. I'm sorry to break that to you, Tans, but
She eats men for breakfast.
I'm slowly coming to terms with the facts, so it's fine.
but she can beat up any man. That's just a fact.
With due diligence. That can also be a
Diligence. That's not politically correct. Oh, Pitt, don't say that. All right. So we're going to talk about beauty, but first I have to introduce the featured comic. And the featured comic was a feature that I did, and it was Project Prince. So here I am with Project Prince. Take it away, me. Hello, I'm Ozone Ocean, and my feature for the week was The Prince Project. More and more demons are coming into our world. They crave human flesh. The military can't stop them, and the angels are outnumbered. Fortunately, there's a special team who are dedicated to studying and defeating demons, led by the amazing young Dr. Isaiah. But are their motives pure like those of the angels, or as corrupt as the demons they seek to destroy? This is a classic manga comic in style, all black and white, with halftones, looking very lovely. It's hand-drawn and digital, even though the story makes use of some of the standard tropes of manga. It's intelligent and well-written with a good flow. You will find this an enjoyable read. I certainly did. I just rocketed through this. It is almost like watching an anime. It's that kind of story and that kind of flow to it. It follows along that usual path that a lot of manga and anime do, you know, like the young supervillain sort of character, or the young, very intelligent, intimidating character who controls the organization, that sort of thing. But all in all, it handled them very well, and yeah, I just found myself reading and reading and reading, although there's lots of pages to read through, so you might get caught up in it and read the whole thing. So this is quite a long comic, so you've got a lot of pages to devour. You won't finish this in 15 pages like some of the other ones I featured. So enjoy Project Prince. I'm not sure why it's named Project Prince, because perhaps I didn't read enough. I didn't get all the way through, but I read quite a bit. It's sort of episodic too, which is interesting. So you get to read these episodes as it goes, as well as having an overall arc. Anyway, enjoy Project Prince by Setha, or Setta. It's rated E for everyone. And that was the featured comic, Project Prince, which is a weird name for reading through that comic, I still didn't work out how it was called Project Prince, but maybe I didn't find it. Maybe I was just too dumb. Okay. So Project Prince, and then we have the featured music this week, which was always by Gun Wallace, and he's given us the music to Mercenary Bound, which was a comic I featured just a couple of weeks ago. So Mercenary Bound. This one has a slightly disco early 1980s feel to it. It pumps along with a nice easy pace of a trained fighter with a hint of threat and a touch of danger, like the music to a level of a side-scrolling beat-em-up video game. So, take it away, Gun Wallace. The music by Gun Wallace, Mercenary Bound. Okay, so beauty, guys. There's a lot to talk about. Beauty, it's a massive subject. I could ramble about it just by myself, but I'm not going to. I want you guys to contribute.
Go ahead.
Who's us? Who's
You're
the prettiest
beautiful.
one here?
Baines. There's no
You're
question.
beautiful.
Yeah,
You're beautiful. It's
he
true.
is inside and out.
He is, yeah.
I
He
don't know
Oh.
because I've seen up his nose.
Contests.
Oh, sorry.
It's the beards. It just does it for me. So, sorry guys, but you've got a lot to compete with there. So yeah, beauty. So one of the things about beauty is people say, "Oh, beauty is eternal, beauty is universal," and I strongly disagree. I think beauty is incredibly culturally and ethnically diverse, and time dependent as well. So what's beautiful in the 1920s isn't necessarily beautiful in the 1220s. It's completely different. So it depends on the time when you're from and the place where you are, your ethnicity, what you're used to, even just your within your village or something like that. So maybe what was beautiful in a tiny little village in the 1220s wouldn't be beautiful to people in the village in France, you know, and to the people in this little Welsh village wouldn't find a French person as beautiful. That's how individual beauty can be. I don't think that beauty is a universal thing at all. So how do you guys respond to that?
I agree.
Oh. Hans is looking skeptically.
I'm going to speak last. So
Okay. Well, I would say there are probably some universal elements, maybe, or somewhat universal elements to what we would find beautiful. But definitely, eye of the beholder, as they say, or the environment you're used to, like you said.
Yeah.
Something that has a certain familiarity or relatability to it in some way. Yeah, I mean, it does make sense. I have no research to back this up, but I mean, I like what you're saying.
Well, I look at it as like there are some, like maybe African people who have like very, very different facial features to, say, people like Inuit people or something like that, or Maori people, English people. These people have strikingly different facial features. Now, are they going to be expected to find the Disney princess-looking white person as incredibly beautiful? No, because that completely devalues their own looks. That would make, by default, everybody different from that incredibly ugly, which isn't true. Because obviously people with facial features that will never match this Disney princess will obviously find their own features more appealing. And that's what you do. Naturally, you find your own features, no matter how you look. They grow on you and you think, maybe that is a definition of something that should be appealing. That's just a psychological thing, I suppose. I'll go on.
On the other hand, though, you have as well extremely beautiful people that keep trying to alter their features, with plastic surgeries and the like. And each plastic surgeon has a ton of stories about beautiful people walking into his office trying to make things disappear that don't actually exist, or even add to the allure or the beauty of that particular person. So I think that the saying beauty is in the eye of the beholder really does hold a very big weight, let's say, on how we personally perceive who is and who isn't beautiful, beyond at least certain very specific guidelines. So
guidelines like
when it comes
big
to
eyes and the certain physical features.
Not necessarily.
Health
I think
or
it's more about symmetry and common consensus, and often, at least socially, if you research beauty, which is not very artistic, but if you go about looking at what is considered beautiful through the ages and across cultures, you will find that usually something that is rare, not easily attained, and something that in order to be maintained, you need to be at least affluent, will tend at least to be considered beautiful. So that's why you have, like, in Fiddler on the Roof, he wants his wife to have a proper double chin, which for our society is terrible. But for them, it was beautiful because it implied that this woman had enough to eat to grow one.
Yeah. So it has implications of sort of like survivability or health or status, or
that's a sign of beauty.
Status is the wrong word,
I think it's South Africa, or it might be some other. I think it's South Africa. For a woman to be very fat is a sign of beauty because it means she's healthy. She hasn't got AIDS or anything like that, and it means she's affluent. She can afford lots of food and to eat whatever she wants. But it means you're healthy and you're wealthy and all that kind of stuff. So and I think in ancient cultures as well, that was another thing, because you look at those ancient Greek little fetish figures and they're all big fat ladies.
Yeah, they're not sort of the pin-up things or the quote-unquote beautiful images that we would, see today. It's sort of striking how different it is.
But as Tant says, it's often something that is rare. Well, not necessarily rare, but it's something that is, you have to be wealthy to attain it or something. So it's an aspirational thing. So for like wealthy people today can afford to go to the gym and they can afford the right foods and the right diets. Mm-hmm. So that's why they get that figure. Whereas back in the old days, to get enough sustenance was the harder part. or to have a lifestyle where you didn't have to work or you didn't have to become incredibly skinny because you couldn't get enough to eat and you had to do stuff all the time and you wasted away. So getting fat was...
Or the tan. When workers would work in the fields and everyone would have a tan, the tan wasn't considered very beautiful. You had to be milky white and pale and everything. Whereas opposed now that the workers are not in those fields, they are in cubicles and everyone is pale as hell. It's the tan that is alluring. So that is like the social consensus element more than
deeper,
which affects a lot. I mean, you train your eye at what to expect in order to consider something beautiful. I remember that is like a smaller personal story in the sense with fashion. Maybe a decade ago, these pumps with extremely pointy toes were out in fashion, and I remember when I first saw them, they looked terrible to me, like it was for the wicked witch of the East kind of pointy. And
yes.
But I realized by the end of the season, and maybe a little further, that I started considering them pretty streamlined and fine. Why? Because I kept seeing them everywhere and always in a context of being current in beautiful and things like that. And you grow accustomed, as George said, in a different context. So you do train your eye to expect that these and these and these so-and-so features equal beauty, which goes also to the princess, the Disney princess thing, which personally I think that a lot of the Disney princesses aren't actually as beautiful, but they have the long hair, the big eyes, and usually cherry lips, and those all are signals of beauty. So you will find them beautiful, especially the big long hair. I don't think, is there one with short hair? I don't think so. I mean, except Mulan, but she doesn't start off. She starts off as a long hair, beautiful young woman.
I think maybe Sleeping Beauty or no.
No, she has long hair.
One of them has their hair all tied up all the time.
Snow White had short hair, I think.
Okay, yeah, Snow White. Yeah. But at the time, everyone had short hair. Women all had bobs. So...
Yes, very good point. Yeah, so the Disney ones have tropes that reflect the things that are fashionable and beautiful in the society at the time, as they, you'd expect. But they always, one of the things about the Disney princesses is even if they have an ethnic, not white European princess, they have like Milan or something like that, that version of beauty for that character will still be mutated to be more European. Because you look at Mulan and she's not really a typical Chinese face at all, especially not from the time when she's being depicted. There's no freaking way.
She looks more Korean, I think, than
or Maori or something like that. She just, or Polynesian. Yeah, she does not look Chinese one little bit. So they've mutated it to be a more European-esque kind of look, and that's what Disney does because that's their house style. But that brings me to another thing. When we look at they show, oh look, isn't this ethnic person beautiful? And you look at them and you think, well, hang on, you've only picked this person of color or whatever to be an example of beauty because they look European, which is a sort of you're trying not to be racist in doing that and saying there's beauty in all races, but you're actually being incredibly racist by picking them because they look European, which is a really terrible thing. Rather than say, like in the 80s, like an icon of beauty was Grace Jones, and Grace Jones does not look European at all. Grace Jones is Grace Jones, and she is this magnificent creature who is just herself, and she looks striking and fantastic, which is a far more positive thing than just having a lot of people that Naomi Campbell, for example, she was a fantastic supermodel, a good kind of like role model for people, but she is a very European looking woman, and that's why she became such an icon supermodel, because she fits into the mold.
I don't know if she looks that European. I mean, she always looked like an African gazelle.
Well, she looks more European than Grace Jones or typical African person.
But the one that does have a big deviation, and I personally really like him. So from his people is I probably will kill the way I pronounce his name. It's Hrithik, something like that. Roshan, and he's an Indian. And if you Google him, he is beautiful, but he is not. His complexion is very, very pale compared to most Indian people. He has this big, I think, light green or blue eyes that are like disproportionately big on his face, and it really looks nice. And he definitely isn't like your average Indian person from Punjab or Calcutta, or if you go even more south, they become, and this is not to sound racist, this is actually objective, they become darker and darker skin.
Yeah, that's true.
And they also have wider features, like the features on their face become a little bit wider and stouter. But I don't know, and he actually is six-fingered, and which is also weird.
Oh, really?
But he's six-fingered.
Oh, so
wow,
he's the one who killed Inigo Montoya's dad.
Yeah.
It was him.
I'll find a photo of him, and just keep in mind, like Shyamalan, who is also
the director
from the same. Yeah, he's also Indian,
right.
and just compare the two. But Shyamalan is very representative, considering.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me one.
M. Night Shyamalama.
Yeah.
Shyamalama.
Yes, he has that sort of name. Well, Tommy Wiseau, who you brought up, Baines, he's a weird-looking character, but he looks very kind of like extra ruggedly handsome in a way. But
actually,
stiff.
that's true. Yeah,
he has a very rugged, handsome look, but very stiff. Oh my God, pretty boy!
See what I mean?
I'll save the image. Yeah, Indians have this. India is a strange country for all the different kinds of people there and all the different ways they look.
If you see the guy Sadiq Khan, for example, he's also, in my opinion, very handsome Indian man. Let me find his. No, this is London. I don't want this guy. Okay, I'll find him. But he's more representative from Indian people, and you will see that features are quite different from this particular other guy that I mentioned. And he has, Roshan has a bigger, let's say, level of popularity with far more demographics internationally than the other guy I'm going to find in a second. So,
okay.
This other guy has more of a widespread popularity, you're saying?
No, the one I just saw you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, looks like a soap opera actor dude you'd see anywhere. Yeah. Oh, big deal. There's nothing special.
Do you know, one of the things is there's a lot of people who are incredibly beautiful when they're young, and then as they age, their features collapse and they just turn to like melted wax. And a good example of that is the famous Muammar Gaddafi, Colonel Gaddafi. If you look at photos of him from when he was a young man, he is model. He looks like a model. You know, he looks like a male clothing model. It's incredible.
Right.
But you look at him like when he was a much older, his mouth is just his whole jaw is collapsed down. He just turned into such a troll. But he was
people who are not. I don't know. I guess
Tance's example of an Indian man who has what did you say, Tance? More representative.
But he's more representative of the Indian specifications, let's say, for men, for handsome men, and how he's distinctly different from that otherworldly Indian person. I don't know how he managed to exist. But he's also, which is what I'm saying is that beauty across races will go often towards the ones that are very rarely shaped. I'm not making much sense right now. The point was that I just wanted to give you a comparison of a handsome Indian man that isn't
very Indian,
non-representative. That is basically European. Yeah. So.
Yeah. It's unusual, isn't it? I'm going to link you to this. Look at the young Colonel Gaddafi, and you won't believe how incredible that dude looked. I mean, not that he wasn't a bad man, but he was a good-looking guy back in the day. I don't know. He was a bad man.
I was thinking that too. The naughty man.
Naughty man.
Bad boy.
Yeah. Anyway, so do you guys see that?
Yeah.
Is this just me?
No, he looks like a 50s like matinee icon or something like that.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like he could have been like a movie star. He's like sort of a
this
movie star looking guy or something.
This amazing smile.
I'm still waiting for it to load. That's all. Okay, there he is. Yeah, he's very 50s Jean Premier.
Yeah, incredible smile, steely eyes, all that kind of stuff. Looks like an Italian kind of movie star.
He was Mediterranean, so.
Yeah, and in later years, he turned into a horrible old woman.
Which reminds me, have you seen that very iconic young Stalin picture?
Oh yeah, Stalin. He looked like some sort of heroic
intellectual hero.
Yeah, which is exactly not what he was.
Exactly.
But I mean, people who are not like you wouldn't necessarily look at a picture of them and say they're beautiful or whatever. Can still be beautiful. I guess I'm putting it as a question. Do you think that someone who's not like, you wouldn't put them on a poster on your wall as like a gorgeous image, but they're beautiful. They're beautiful still. They're not necessarily, attractive or movie star looking, but they're beautiful. Or is that just a subjective thing?
No, I think that comes a lot from the other inferences you make from somebody. So there's a standard, however you want to say it, of beauty, a projection of beauty that you take in and that you quantify somehow. But then there's also other. I think beauty, the word beauty, is a lot like love in some ways, and that there's so many other different kinds of beauty, which sounds very hippy dippy or whatever. But for instance, like more than people are beautiful, houses can be beautiful, architecture, landscape, all sorts of things we can register as beautiful. So it makes sense to say that you can see somebody who you wouldn't necessarily classify as, standard beauty, arousing beauty or anything like that, but that you might still classify as intriguingly beautiful, or like maybe there's something about them. Like for instance, I dated this one guy for a long time, somebody who honestly I wouldn't find that good looking. Like he's good looking, but he wasn't anything I would have gone out of my way to notice otherwise. But afterwards, there were certain features he had for a long time, like things that I had internalized about his face or his stature and stuff, that when I would see those things in other people, the memory made them beautiful to me. And so all sorts of different things can go into it, the way somebody, so take into account also that someone compared to, like, say they're sitting like I am now, like people on the radio, people listening can't see, but like say you're just sitting perfectly still like this, like a headshot. Think of that. Think of a headshot for a movie star or something. That's so different to seeing them actually talk and interact and walk and actually their nuances and stuff. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there is really quite a lot that goes into what is beautiful.
That's a good point, because people can take model shots. People can take amazing photos of people, other people, or you can take amazing selfies or whatever that make your face fit into classical images of beauty, just from certain lighting or whatever. But that really doesn't represent how you look from all different angles and that kind of 3D version of you. And
weren't there tutorials on how to make a selfie that looks, gorgeous?
Oh.
No matter how you look and stuff like that. I think there was a period where this was a craze to basically create this perfect selfie from the perfect angle, and this is how to do it, and so on and so forth. But another thing that I wanted to add, because that was an excellent point, is that to a very big extent, behavior codes and amplifies or undermines beauty, which is why a lot of actors that are typecast into playing specific types of characters. I'm thinking of Antonio Banderas, who I had a terrible crush on when I was around 25, I think, in my 20s in general. And like,
So a couple
my
weeks
God,
ago?
I found him. Exactly. Depends how you, are we talking lunar days or normal?
Dog years.
Anyway, so he played for the longest period of time the rebel, who is also a very good person and has scruples, and he does the right thing, and he doesn't have any fear, and so on and so forth. With the pinnacle of that being, I think, his role as Che Guevara in Evita, if you recall. And if you just take his face without any of the glamour of that and the mannerisms that go with that as well, okay, then I think that you might even find that his face could be just plain, not anything, too outstanding. And if you like Korean TV, like I do these days, they have an amazing acting school. I don't know how they do it, that they managed to completely change the way they look just by the way they act. And you have top rank actors, both men and women, that play both good and evil roles, depending, on the series. And when they play the evil role, it's like you see a goddamn monster. They are beautiful, but it only takes one scene, and after that, you hate the bastard. And that same person, when you see him in the good role, in some other movie or series or drama, he is or she is like an angel. And I only saw that happen once in one Western actor, and that was Ralph Fiennes when he was playing. Usually he plays good, or he used to at least play good roles. And he's always, toward the handsome side and everything. But the handsomest he was, and you hated him, was in Schindler's List when he was playing the Nazi in the Nazi camp.
Right.
So, and there was, he was a monster, and he managed to basically transform himself, although he was so beautiful, just by being this Nazi person.
Yeah.
That was doing whatever it was he was doing. So you basically cheer when, spoiler, he gets hanged in the end. There's that.
Yeah, what you're saying, that was weird. All the way back to Antonio Banderas. I used to think that he was an incredible icon of male beauty or whatever, to aspire to. And because, after movies like Desperado, where he plays this, or whatever that was called, I think.
The mariachi.
Yeah, the mariachi kind of like dark gunman kind of Robin Hood sort of character, and you think, oh my God, and he has this deep sort of voice, and his amazingly sensual kind of performance. But then when you actually look at his face, he's actually got round, soft cheeks. He's got a big, bulbous sort of nose. There's nothing in his face that's even that manly, really. His big eyes and all this kind of stuff. So he hasn't really got
it's actually Gerard Depardieu.
Yes. And he's tiny too. He's a really short man as well. So like me, he's a small guy with this round face and this bulbous nose and big eyes and stuff like that. But because of the performance that he gives, it transforms him and changes him into something else. It's so amazing the way he does that you never really notice. So Tance, that was a very good point about the personality of someone has a transformative ability over their features to give you a certain impression of them that's totally outside of it's like the way that certain people appear a lot taller than they are or shorter than they are, based on how they act or some impression of them that you have. I remember there was this these guys. I watched them on YouTube. There's this Scholar Gladiatora who talks about swords, and then there's Scalagrim who also talks about swords, and this guy called Lindy Bage. And so they're often thought of in the same sort of light, often thought of together because, you know, they all talk about similar subjects. And people, a guy drew a picture of them, and he drew them all together like as if they were standing together. And so Lindy Bage was this tiny little guy in the middle, and then Scalagrim was this tall guy on one side, and very tall guy on one side, and Scholar Gladiator was this sort of medium-sized guy. But in reality, Lindy Bage is a very, very tall man, you know, in high 6 feet, you know, 6'4" or something like that. Not short at all. Scalagrim's actually a quite short man, and Matt, Scholar Gladiator, is quite tall as well. So it was just the personality of these people, the way they project themselves, creates an impression of how big they are.
Right.
Which is a really unusual thing. Yeah, so impressions that people create can transform themselves in weird ways, you know, and maybe that does have something to do with beauty as well. Certain ways of act. Some people can appear very beautiful just because of how they act, or ugly because of how they act.
Yeah. Oh, in a big way. Yeah. I find it as sort of visual as guys are, and how we are thought to be all about that, like, you know, objectifying and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, there's truth to that, of course. But I definitely found that, like, I'll see an interview or see, like, some kind of talk or conversation with like an actress or a political figure or something like that. I'll see them in an interview and be like, oh my God, like, she's so attractive. And then I'll go look her up. I'll look up pictures online, and I'm like, you look at the pictures and you don't see it at all. That wow. I get that a lot, you know. It's like, I don't like, it's weird. It's the way they behave, like the way they talk, and like the vibe they have, and the way they carry themselves, or just their personality, or something like that. Just
has it ever happened to you? I mean, for me, it doesn't happen too often, but I have a particular actress in mind where you can see that she should look beautiful to you. Like, she should look. There is. You can see the beauty, but she doesn't look beautiful. She looks sort of cold and
it's
not appealing. And I'm thinking,
like Charlize Theron,
I'm thinking
for
about
example.
All the time. Yeah.
I find that with Charlize
like
Theron, I don't find her beautiful because she's just too cold. So it doesn't work.
I was Nicole Kidman.
Oh.
And like,
I'm crazy about both of those. It's odd that you'd bring up those examples. Those would be like my top three, probably. You know.
So you see something perhaps differently about them than perhaps Tange, or do you find them cold as well, and that just doesn't bother you? Or
I kind of like it. I like that. I'm kind of attracted to that. But yeah,
that's
but I don't.
It's like your polar opposite, man. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, for me, it's Scarlett Johansson that everyone loves, and I just find her ridiculous because she's all over the place, everywhere, and I just find her so annoying.
Overload, yeah. You know, I think that's another reason why people tend not to find. Why do I keep on wanting to say Christopher Reeves? This has nothing to do with the
incredibly handsome man. Jeez,
you got Superman.
Holy shit, man! My brain just took a fucking hike.
It's the most handsome man ever.
Christopher Reeves. I just almost made a really untasteful joke, so I'm going to leave that alone. But but getting back on track, I think that's another reason why people tend not to find Angelina Jolie so attractive anymore. It's because there's just been also just such an overload. Like, I mean, part of it is like we were saying before the cast that she, you know, her features are exaggerated in such a way now that they've become less appealing. You know, there's that forced sense of beauty there that just kind of drives you away a little bit. But she is also she's everywhere. There's an overload of her, you know, and it just, it's
saturation. Yeah. Like, although she now has finally lost her dad's lips, which is,
she better go find them.
John Voight's gonna be mad.
That looks a bit better. That when she was younger and she really had those weird lips that John Voight has, that was so weird looking at those on her, because she had them exactly the same as John Voight. And that was such a weird thing. Those bizarre, extra creased, strange, thick lips that he has. It didn't fit. But everyone loved him for some reason.
There's actually what you were talking about earlier about not liking somebody who should be attractive, you know, like Charlize Theron and stuff like that, because they're so cold. It's interesting because I'm not going to say who it is, but I find personality online that I've found the past week or so that I've been getting a bit of a crush on, and not a big personality at all. I doubt many people know about him, but and like, granted, he has the kind of like the features and whatnot, basically, that I tend to be attracted to, but not that much. But what I find that I like is that he's got this personality that just strikes me as being just kind of open and happy in a way. And it's not to say that I get attracted to every open and happy person there is, but it's made me more attracted to this person that I might not have noticed before. Like, there's something, just this little something about their personality that makes them more attractive look-wise. And so, like, without those two things, like, I'll admit, you know, to be attracted to somebody, as much as it sucks, like, I don't want to say that looks are a total prerequisite, but I think for a lot of people, even when you say that they're not, to a degree they are, unfortunately, but they just are a lot of times. And so, so it's kind of interesting to think, you know, like, if this person, you know, was just a little bit less attractive than I find them, but they still had this great personality, would I have noticed? You know, would I have a little crush on them still, you know, or vice versa? You know, if they were just a bit more good looking, but they didn't have as good as a personality as it seems, you know, even without them being jerks, if they just didn't hit that mark of completely of whatever that I'm seeing in that person, would I still be attracted? Like, what's this almost this golden ratio of beauty that I have concocted in my mind, this perfect, strange balance, you know, like, what is this? What is it? What happens? How's this so? So I'm starting to sound like I'm doing some kind of drug someone stuff.
No, I do think that you are making a very good point.
You are.
I think my theory, and this is my theory, so there isn't much more than my personal experience to support it with, so take it with a grain of salt. But I do think that good looks act like a beacon to attract attention. But then after that, you need to keep that attention with your behavior, whatever that may be. So assuming that this first wave passes and you fail to do that, then it's behavior that is going to attract, quote unquote, you to other perhaps people. So theoretically, at least, unless you are satisfied with whatever this handsome person has to show, you will be noticing the not so handsome but well-behaving. When I say well-behaving, I mean in behaviors that appeal to you, whatever those are. Okay, those that do it for you, let's say.
Yeah.
And that is going to be a far more defining factor in the end. So.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. And those other things which happen to alter the way your impression of them is, those behavioral traits and all that kind of stuff, and the way they carry themselves. What about like tertiary things, that not only their behavior, but if they their mannerisms and stuff like that conform to typical ways of behaving, does that influence your impression of them and make them more beautiful? Like not only that, but their interests, if they have the same interests that are the same speech mannerisms and all that kind of stuff, if that fits in with the common kind of thing you'd expect, does that make them more appealing or beautiful? Or is it the other way around? If they are more unusual, if they don't have the same common interests and same common speech patterns, and does that make them more striking and influence the beauty of this person? I sometimes think it does, because it's like I don't know. I think it can myself. You might see.
You think it makes them more attractive to have similar, or the other way around?
To have different. So you've got that same thing about, say, like Tance was saying earlier about beauty being something that is hard to attain or unusual or rare. So you have a person who behaves or speaks, with an unusual accent or something like that, and that increases their allure and their beauty to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just thinking in terms of, in some ways, having the hairstyle that's really popular, that can make someone beautiful, but everybody's got that. They've all got the same hairstyle.
Right. I think there's definitely something to standing out.
What's that?
She missed.
I missed what you were saying before that.
Okay, so
I got the hairstyle part, but I didn't hear the rest.
All right, so sometimes there can be someone who has like a different accent or something like that, which is a very unusual kind of trait. They look the same as you, but they have an unusual accent, which, oh my God, that incredible accent that you have. That makes this person stand out and makes them more beautiful, more interesting to you, because that's an unusual trait.
Yeah, actually, it's funny you say that, because the guy that I was talking about earlier, he's got an accent, and that's one of the things. That's one of my things is accents, as it is for a lot of people. But you're right, there is something about it there that it's like, why do you want to attain that? Not attain it, but you mean like why?
Yeah.
Do you want to be closer to that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of people like accents, so.
Yeah.
The way their English is accented can be alluring when it's different to yours. So it's not the usual thing. But like I said, it's like what Tance was saying before, because it's a rarity. It's something that is makes this person unusual. It points you out from the others. Separates you out from the others.
Yeah,
I don't know, that's what I'm thinking. But conversely, things, as I was saying, things like hairstyle, another thing Tance was saying, like the shoes that, with the pointy shoes that looked ridiculous, but then after a while that became a standard of beauty. And it's the same with hairstyles. We look at all these people with the they have the typical hairstyle that's popular at the time. I think, oh my god, yeah, that's you really notice it about someone. You know, when, like with men, the hipster hairstyle came in, like the old Nazi style hair that I call it anyway, shaved on the
you
sides.
Always call it that, Max. You got this hang up, and you don't realize that other people have done those things.
Well, you know, it was popular in the 1930s Germany, and it's popular. Well, it became popular again. I don't know if it still is now, but yeah, shaved on the sides, long and floppy on the top, and that became. Initially, I was, you know, you're thinking, oh yeah, this annoying fucking hipsters, and then after a while, that became like a standard of beauty for men. And you know, if someone doesn't have that, you think, oh, why aren't you neat and presentable, and you know, have this nice little flop on the side shaves, and you know, and that. I
think you're being a.
Well, go on.
Bit dramatic about it. I don't think people necessarily think badly of you if you don't have it.
No.
At least not.
But I mean that became a standard of beauty. When you like that, they were showing like that. There was this stupid meme about showing homeless people, you know, with big shaggy beards and stuff like that, and then they give them a hipster makeover. They shave the sides of their head and they have the little floppy beard on top, and his beard, you know, is trimmed, and oh my god, this homeless person looks so beautiful now because he conforms to this particular, you know, popular current grooming style that makes him incredibly beautiful and handsome. You know, it was just so cloyingly, horribly, just thoughtless. This kind of meme. But yeah, just because he conforms, that makes him incredibly beautiful. It's the same man who you wouldn't have pissed on if he was on fire before, but now, oh my god, stick him on the front cover of the women's magazine or whatever because he has this popular hairstyle and the trim beard. Oh my god!
I would take it a little bit more like meaning that hipsters dress like homeless people more than the other way.
But yeah, that's where I'm coming from. You know, if you fit into these you know, particular conform things, and that's an old kind of emo thing. Oh my god, conforming, you missed the mainstream or whatever. You're a normal. You know. But that is a thing. That's you know, if you fit into a particular subculture or a mainstream culture, you can attain a particular allure. I mean, that's why people like different emo people liked other emos, you know. They found them incredibly, you know, exciting and attractive and amazing. If you're a goth, you find other goths amazing because, you know, they're great examples of gothness. Back in when I was growing up, you know, I loved people who look like glam metal people, you know, which is probably why I've still got long curly hair today, because I love that. That made a particular impression on me. So yeah. Oh,
you should shave that body hair off, by the way. It's kind of weird.
Long curly body. Well, you know, my arm beards are particularly attractive.
Yeah, well, the bows are nice, but you can put your arms down now.
So, if we are to take it to comics, have you fashioned your characters after any beauty standards or any particular people that you were thinking of as you were making your characters or designing?
Definitely. Like Ace Kincaid was designed to be like maybe a 1980s version of a 1930s pulp hero. So he has blonde hair and blue eyes and rugged looks, and he dresses like one of those kind of heroes. He was specifically designed to look like a handsome male, handsome male ideal, definitely. Pinky sort of has some of my features, not because I think they're beautiful, but because I needed to of reference because I was drawing her very closely for a long time as an art project before she became a comic character. So, but that said, I looked people with similar looks in order to draw her. And so, like, Claudia Black is this woman with that kind of striking nose, and that is, and she has striking sort of features like Pinky has. So Pinky has that kind of ideal of beauty, like it's a more angular kind of look. And that actually makes her, a lot of people have sort of mentioned to me that they like her look because she is so unusual. She doesn't have the common ideal of beauty that so many characters have. She has a rather unusual idea of beauty. You don't really see that angular kind of masculine features on a lot of female characters that you do. What about you guys? Say Harley Baines. She's meant to be
I was going to say, she's supposed to be a conventionally beautiful, and her design has probably changed more since the comic started than any other character. I find her the most difficult to draw and to pin down what her actual look is. But yeah, she is supposed to be in a crowded room, like sort of all the eyes would go to her. She's the conventionally beautiful character. Yeah. That's what she's supposed to be.
She's basically like Pitface or Tanserine.
Exactly.
Amazing.
Just not as attractive as them.
It's hard to achieve.
Because, come on, you got to keep it realistic. What was that? Say that again. What?
You're making me blush now, and I don't know how to respond. But thank you.
You're welcome.
Abigail is supposed to be she's a frosty kind of gal, a little cold, seemingly tough. Harley has a similar kind of personality, I guess. But Abigail is a lot more uptight. And I don't know, she's got glasses. She has the bun. She wears her hair in a bun, so she's like that character. But I don't know,
librarian beauty.
Yeah, like her being a little more unusual, like is kind of is appealing to some people. Penelope, all the people who have commented like Penelope, though, the guys who read, she's the one they like. She's a big girl. She's pushy. She's she's a little bit wacko.
Yeah, because she is not conventionally beautiful. She's a big lady. She has a body like a square.
Kinda, but yeah, all the characters have become more attractive as the comics gone on. I've fallen into that. I've noticed, but yeah, she's got the big pigtails, and she's flighty, she's wacky, she's.
It's the way she acts that makes her beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, she's full of love. She's full of love.
Whereas Harley is not beautiful in the way she acts.
Right.
She's not an appealing character in that way. That's interesting. That is interesting. Like
as for the guys, I've had. Sorry, I'll just cut you off briefly. Sorry. The guys, I've had people not comment as much on their attractiveness, but each of the three male leads have had comments about their attractiveness. Amazing enough, TK the most. Like I had, someone I knew was talking to me about how cool. I was like, TK is kind of based on my best friend, and I was like, TK is way less mature. My best friend is way cooler. And this girl I was telling this to said, "What? TK is super cool." He's like, loves him. I've had people say Oscar's cute. I've had people say how hunky Wade is. He's a big, muscly dude.
Jeez.
So there you go.
Wow, they're all beautiful in their own way. Well, I suppose TK has a cool kind of way of acting, doesn't he? He's
yes, he's an anarchist. He's very confident, even though he's kind of a moron.
Which is an attractive trait.
Yeah.
Say Cece is meant to be drawn beautiful in a lot of ways, and in a lot of ways she's based on different attractive women.
Exactly.
But she's not attractive. She's not someone that people really warm to at all, because she's a nasty, mean person. So, So that works out. Well, sometimes.
What about you?
Oh, go on.
Sorry. No, go ahead, man.
No, I was saying sometimes it's based on Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
So, what about you guys? So, let's see.
Sands and Pitt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I had to unmute the thing for a second. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I was just thinking about this before the chat, about Bones and how it seems like, I mean, I could see why some people would be attracted to him. For instance, I was thinking of, there was a page I did a long time ago, and it was when Putrid Meat was more episodic, and it's that one story where Bones is leading the kids through that like zombie plague outbreak, and they're all kind of like falling one by one, and the kids are kind of talking about Bones behind his back, whether they should like axe him while he's not looking and run off, or like, and one of the girls says something, and she goes, another girl goes, "'Cause you got a crush on him, Susie," or something. And then somebody in the comments, I think it was Alchican, if you remember her, I don't think I say her name right, said something like, "Susie's got good taste," or something like that. And that stuck with me for so long, because I mean, Bones, like, all right, so body wise, like, I mean, he's not a model, but like you see his arms, like he's got that thrash tough guy look, so which accentuates your arms, and it's very tough, and so I imagine that could be super attractive. I was super attracted to that type of look for a really long time, and then I guess if I think about his personality, I mean, I could see how you could have a crush on him. I don't know if I ever necessarily did. Like, I never fantasized about somebody like Bones, I don't think. But if there was any kind of attraction, it was more for his cool guyness, I think, and that's what allures me to him as a character. So it was never, for me, anything like sexual, like, oh, I go and do me some Bones. I want Bones' bone, or anything like that. But, but I don't know. I think Gretchen is the only one that's made to be attractive, because
made very well.
That's yeah. Thank you very much. That wasn't too hard. She's kind of stereotypically, but I'm curious to know if that attraction remains with how she is now, being more defined. But I think out of the male characters, if you go just by looks alone, I think the most stereotypically attractive would be Tread.
Yeah,
actually, yeah, because he's the only one who doesn't really have any extreme features one way or another. And although he's kind of, I mean, he's stoic and stuff like that, and he's not made to be sexy at all, but since he is so average in so many ways, I think he would be most in the box of what would be considered attractive.
Yeah.
To most people.
And he is. It works. Yeah, he is very attractive character. You look at him, and you look at, say, Igor, however you say it, and with his crazy mohawk and his football pads and all that kind of stuff, and
his kind of long horse face, and
he's not doesn't really have the same attractiveness at all. But Tread, you can look at him and think, yep. That's a good-looking character. That's the character I want to be if I was in this con.
Until you're dead comrades come back to life and try to kill you.
Yeah.
Steal your tank.
Stab you
Until
in the
that
eye,
happens.
whatever I didn't envy him that. No, not at all. Yeah. Trey is a typical male ideal of beauty. What about you, Tans? Basil is a unusual. Well, not having an arm and huge. Well, scars are always an attractive thing, even though they contravene the whole idea of symmetry is beauty. Scars still look fantastic.
Well, they're not disfiguring scars.
Yes.
Which that would be what we were talking about. If they are, like, if they completely change the shape of the face or make the eye into some kind of unholy mass of flesh or something like that, then we would talk about scars. But as his scarring is, it's more towards the ragged, I suppose, and it doesn't really take away anything from his looks. The shapes are all the same, and I would be very remiss if I pretended that it's anything else except like I tried to remember. To be honest, I was trying to remember how I designed these characters because it's been so long and I've been with them for so long that they just are the way they are right now. But
yeah, I know what you mean.
I remember that when I started designing the characters, I wasn't going for beauty per se in anything, but I was taking a special care not to make anyone ugly on purpose, because that would be a giveaway for a lot of things. So I didn't want that. So I opted to err on the side of beauty for most characters. I mean, I don't think I actually have any actually bad-looking person in my cast. I mean, if you see them, all of them have the potential to be appealing or attractive, in a sense. Maybe not, drop-dead gorgeous, but they have normal features. Normal features is the idea. Something like Basil would be, I designed him to be very much like a very particular character in stories, like a very Greek iconic prosecutor character that dominated of Greek cinema. So he looks like that a lot. Just, adjusted for the era and everything. And the reason I named him like this, and he doesn't have an arm and everything, was because I wanted to symbolize that he is not complete, that he has a lot of issues that he hasn't resolved and everything. So that was basically why he's so handicapped. But he isn't. He isn't. The one that I made to be specifically beautiful is Martha, and the reason I did that was because I have a personal bad experience with being blonde. So I wanted to make a very beautiful blonde woman that is not girly, in the sense that I don't know. I hope that she doesn't come across as your girly damsel in distress sort of girl. I wanted her to be very beautiful on the outside and also extremely threatening and fierce when she wants to. So, and there were two reasons. Story-wise, I wanted her to attract the strong men in the cast, so that I would have my classes going on between the guys. And I also wanted to just portray a blonde woman that beautiful and everything that doesn't really like. I mean, her looks aren't part of her gig, let's say, of she doesn't rely on her looks at all. In fact, sometimes maybe she feels maybe she is even hindered because she is annoyed. She's annoyed with Orestes' issues and with her because she doesn't reciprocate.
I can say that it is a hard fight to fight being so beautiful all the time.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go as far as that because that's so fucking pretentious. But the idea is that
you fucking bitch.
Please, like,
oh my god,
who complains? Who complains that oh my god, my burden is that I am drop dead gorgeous? Nobody. So,
you guys all the time. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. But
Have
we
you
are
crossed to bear?
So
oh, that was fantastic. Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Anyway, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Iris, who is not. I mean, she hasn't really debuted all that much. She's.
Yeah.
I mean, she has a scene coming up that doesn't
She
involve
has a very symbolic name.
intercourse.
For goodness sake.
Is it? We think it is, but I don't know what you're thinking of.
Well,
Anyway, but she is the one that counts on her looks a lot, and she is a beautiful woman. So
isn't
there's
it
that.
named after?
I mean, I designed
a Greek goddess or some kind of legend about a flower or something like that. So beautiful that.
Yeah. Well, Iris was the messenger of the gods.
Yeah.
And she got so drunk that she messed up at some point, and yeah, she made a fool of herself. And she also,
so basically,
I think,
pit face.
Stole. No, I don't know. She also stole her mom's. She was the daughter of Hera, and she stole her mom's beauty cream to give to one of Zeus's paramours, and Hera was infuriated, and she cursed Iris. But I don't remember what she did with that curse. But so that's the Iris myth, the myth of Iris. She's not Iris.
It's a different Iris. Yes. So Iris was designed to be beautiful for a specific reason, because she fits into a particular role within the comics. So she's a kind of Matahari sort of character who does trade on her looks, unlike Martha, who definitely does not. Is that right? Is that fair to say?
You cut out. What did you say exactly?
That Iris is a more Matahari kind of character who does trade on her looks because of her particular occupation,
in a sense.
Unlike Martha. Completely unlike Martha. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. See, Iris is the one that really counts on her appeal, and now. But of course, she's not. Yeah. I would say that you are correct. I will not go further than that. But if I go towards the men as well, I want them to look handsome or ugly based on their behavior. So I drew them to be mostly handsome, and then their appeal fluctuates depending on what they do and how they do it. So, I mean, Arthur is a handsome man, at least usually. Yeah, when I manage to draw him well, he's a handsome man. And Eichel also is handsome. He does have a little bit of a nose on him, but he still is handsome. He qualifies as handsome.
What about Orestes?
This reminds me actually of when we were first putting Brave Resistance together. I remember you at one point said, wait a minute, the most handsome probably good-looking character that we have is Ludger, and you were right. Like, I mean, Hunter's very good-looking too, but like we make her. But maybe that's part of the allure of bad guys. They're either super unattractive or they're attractive. Like Exus is attractive. You know what I mean? Like something about the bad guys has to. I don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody's got a little something for.
You don't want to make it. You don't want to be too obvious. You can't make every bad guy into God, what's his name? I know. I've read the freaking comic. I've read every single page of it. It starts with an H. It's in your Brave Resistance.
Hackett? Do you have a crush on Hackett?
yeah. But say Hackett is ugly on the outside as well as ugly on the inside, but you can't do that for every bad guy. You're not allowed to.
Also, I had to say, I don't know how Nikos looks, but when I had suggested, because that's a design that I had initially suggested to Deirdre, and then she perfected it, of course. I didn't want him to be handsome. I wanted him to be plain. Yeah. Very plain, actually. And just have a very animated. Nikos.
Oh, yeah, man.
I like
the way
he's
you
my
described
favorite
Nikos
character in
was
that.
so.
I like him the best.
Like, even the way you described him when we were first making him, it was just so. It was so clear talking about. It was really interesting. Which doesn't have anything to do with what we're talking about, but I just thought was I had forgotten about that part of the process in making Brave Resistance, so I was reminiscing.
I think he looks the best. He's my favorite character. He's better than Ludger.
Well, that's not a fit, actually.
You hurt his feelings.
Poor Ludger.
No, she's seen him in a Speedo.
What's that?
What?
I said Tan should know she's seen him in a Speedo.
Oh, God, yes. Only I had that pleasure. Yeah. I have to say that, in my opinion, one of the handsomest guys in the Brave Resistance cast would be Ludger, of course. He is a handsome person. If you take away that sour look.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but he becomes ugly. Well, he becomes unattractive, I'd say, because he always is, sour and growly and scowly and all of that. And then I also
he always looks like there's a bad smell in the air. Is what his face is like.
Yes, exactly.
Well, if Hackett would only wash better.
Yeah. Exactly.
I think that the one that is actually especially towards the 40s handsomeness would be Hunter. Hunter is handsome, and he has this heroic build about him, and he also, he's like basically he's a Superman in a sense, if you look at him a little bit.
He very much is, and we made him. I mean, we didn't specifically make him to be attractive, but we did in a way, because I think subconsciously he just kind of had that role, the 1940s, American hero, and of course we decided to put the Native American aspect on it so it wouldn't be quite so, and which also feeds into his background and stuff. It's not just so he's not, just a plain generic American guy, but it's interesting because that's the first time I ever made a character like that. That is so good looking, and good looking and good.
Yeah. Okay.
Those two things both combined, and so it it wasn't odd. It was neat. It still is, but it was just so different than anybody that I had made in Future to Meet. And so, I don't know. I really do enjoy him as a character, but
yeah.
I think when
what I like about Hunter a lot is that he has that calm fortitude. Like, you know that he has the capacity to bench press everyone, but he just doesn't do it.
Yeah,
and he knows he has this power. It's not that he is unknowing, and that's why he is how he is. He is in full control of his own capacities, in a sense.
Yeah, he has the strength, but he doesn't wield it really. He doesn't unless he has to. And we don't know much about his background, but he's only had to do it a couple times before. And that's nothing to do with what we're talking about. So
that's attractive.
It has a lot to do, because that's why he comes across as handsome, whereas Ludger, who is handsomer, doesn't. Like and very foreshadowing in the sense that his background is going to be very important later on.
But that feeds into what we were saying, because he has a personality about him that makes him attractive.
Exactly.
So, there's this old trope. Oh, beauty comes from the inside. It's she's this, but she has a beautiful personality. But the thing is, that actually does have a bearing. That changes people's looks hugely. So it's not just a platitude. It's something that does really exist. Oh, when you get to know someone, you'll like them. Well, yeah, you will.
Yeah. And I'm thinking now, because I'm thinking on how I'm designing, how I'm drawing Orestes in these sequences. And he has some of the features that personally appeal to me a lot, like the curly hair and the very strong features, like chiseled features, and then the way his nose and cheekbones are and everything. There are things that I really like, but the way that he emotes and his expression often throws out of balance these features. So he comes across as less handsome, at least, if not, plain, than he could be. But if I actually drew him with a sincere smile, which I never there is not a single panel where he has a normal, sincere smile, that guy. I think that he would look younger and handsomer, just by an expression that isn't always sour and unsatisfied and resentful as it usually is. So definitely the way that you emote, the way that you feel, your personality will shape objectively your features and maybe distort them, is what I'm saying. So
that's why Colonel Gaddafi
will make
turned
you
into a frog.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump.
I think he also, grew flaccid, or however you pronounce it.
Flaccid.
Flaccid, okay. That.
Yes, very much. Oh, the poor fellow. I think, we're getting a bit long here, getting up an hour and a half. So, I don't know, I'll just say a quick thing. Bottomless Waitress, all those characters were designed to be deliberately beautiful, conventionally beautiful. Although,
yes, and still look different from each other.
Yes.
So you did that very well. Yeah.
So, I think in Francis, we have a rounder look, a short blonde woman, but extremely curvy, so very wide hips, narrow waist, big boobs. Yes, very much the stereotype. She is designed to be the stereotype. And then we had Jane, who is completely goes against what I was saying, like with the whole Grace Jones and Naomi Campbell, because she's a very European-looking black lady. Just because I'm not really great at drawing people anyway. Really, in a lot.
Maybe
of
if we could do it, if we could start over again, maybe we could have tried to do it differently.
Yeah. But so
it didn't really occur to us at the time.
But she is meant to be Mrs. Average. So in between the extremes of red-headed, tall Polly, who is a bit more angular, so she's the angular, tall kind of redhead with small boobs and all that kind of thing. So she's an Amazon. We have plain Jane in the middle. So she's meant to be very average looking, but still be very beautiful. And so they're all like three different archetype or stereotypes, and that's what they were meant to be, because this is this kind of comic that's meant to have like a broad appeal in a way, and they're meant to represent very kind of broad ideals of beauty.
Not supposed to call them broads anymore, Oz. We'll get you more sophisticated. We'll keep working on it.
Broads are appealing. Come on. And our male characters are not archetypes of beauty at all. We didn't really think of that. Wilfred,
except one.
Well, Craig. Oh no, yeah, you're right. So Craig is this kind of I don't know. With him, I wanted him to look like some sort of a slightly Italian kind of guy. He's sort of okay looking. Wilfred looks like the stereotypical geologist kind of scientist engineer kind of character.
Yeah, skinny nerd or skinny scientist guy.
Not so skinny, but he's got a facial hair and sort of a fashion sense that isn't like the mainstream anymore, that kind of stuff. And then there's and the character Daniel, who should be coming soon, is an amazingly pretty kind of guy. He's meant to be the 1950s kind of ideal. So yeah, that was our sort of thinking behind that, and it was very much designed to be based around common ideals of beauty. These characters were not sort of thought up to be, like I'm going to add this individual trait and make this my fetish is this, and I'm putting it in the character.
Right.
No, they were meant to be broadly appealing. So we didn't give them stars or pink hair or high cheekbones or anything. So yeah, that is an example of a comic where our thinking was very much designed around common ideals of beauty.
Right.
But I think actually the most appealing character to most people who they find beautiful is not the blonde bombshell Frances. It's Polly, because of her striking toughness. Yeah, her forthrightness and her obvious sensuality and strong personality.
I think at this point, of course, it's very early in the comic yet, but I think at this point, Polly is the one that has not only the longest, let's say, screen time, but she also has more of a personality than the other two. I mean, the other two yet haven't had their chance to have any sort of episode where they are the center and we see how they act and they react. And
it's true.
So I don't think it's fair yet. I mean, she shines because she's the only one that has had the chance to grab the spotlight.
Yeah, and she makes decisions and sort of drives things forward. Something we could talk about in another podcast is sort of, makes a protagonist, right? They have that sort of, they push forward and stuff. So to give the other characters their due.
Protagonists are sexy. It's why the lead singer in a band is the most attractive one, because he's the lead. It doesn't matter that the other guys are off doing their thing and being fantastic. The lead singer is out there, and they're the ones who you're usually attracted to, initially at least. And then...
That's why Ozone Ocean is on all our Quackcast posters.
I'm the Robert Plant of the...
Yeah.
It's not just the hair.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's that kind of phenomenon. It's the protagonist makes a character stand out and makes them more pretty, whereas you don't necessarily go for the background characters. You will after a while.
Depending. I mean, unless you're... It really depends. If your protagonist can be quite dull in certain genres or certain stories. I noticed that they're getting, and where this is going a little off topic, I guess, might be a great one for another day. They're going off of that bland protagonist kind of thing in a lot of modern fiction. I find you'd have sort of a wacky character as your lead a lot more often now. At least that's kind of my take on it.
Yeah, well, you have a more... I don't know, I'm thinking of way too off subject. Maybe I should stop. I was thinking of like in Seinfeld. So Seinfeld is a conventionally handsome sort of character back then, at least. The actor, he was maybe a bit nerdy or whatever, but he was more conventionally handsome than George or Kramer, at least.
Right.
But I would find George way more handsome than I would the other two characters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why.
Interesting.
Personality-wise.
I know. I'm thinking that. I was thinking that it doesn't. Definitely, the strong personality in a comic character, in a narrative, in a story, is what can make him or her attractive. But I think it's also the light that the author presents him in a lot, or her. Okay, so you might have a...
Oh, we lost you, Tans. Or I did.
Can
anyway.
you hear me now?
We can.
You're back now.
So I personally don't like Harry Potter, but there was a time that I used it for my classes, and part of that was to write small vignettes that would entice kids to actually read the English text. Anyway, so, and by doing that, of course, little by little, that exposure thing that I was talking about made me, immerse myself in the particular environment and story of Harry Potter and everything. And I ended up liking it up until book 6, I think, was the one that again turned me off. But I digress. The experiment that I did when I actually wrote fan fiction for it, with the purpose of creating, without breaking the character, without breaking the character or the design of the character, to make him be appealing and attractive. And that was the character of Snape, who of course has a very big fan base, especially after, everything was revealed about him and everything. But at the time when I did the experiment, he was considered the main villain of the story. And he was, of course, very iconic and blah, blah, blah. And the biggest issue was that everything that he was doing was presented through the point of view not only of Harry Potter, but from a negative point of view that the author was choosing to present the particular character in. If you had the same character as I did, but presented him from a different point of view, his point of view, and in a positive light, presenting motivation, presenting all sorts of other elements that people didn't get to see, and also describing the person in better light, and then the same behavior made that particular character appealing and alluring, and without ever without ever presenting the behavior as being good, because of course if you bend that out of shape, then everything is
you break the story.
Different. But if you have the exact same behavior, exact same reactions, terribly pedagogical methods, child abuse that he was doing, and all these things, but the audience gets to see it as the author, as positive because the author wants that, then that character will gain appeal and will look also beautiful in a sense. Even if you describe him as ugly, the audience will consider him beautiful.
Yeah. All right.
And that, I think, is an element that as creators we need to keep in mind, that if you want a character to be handsome, even if you don't give them handsome features per se, you will have them be handsome. Yeah. I hope I didn't ramble too much about it. So
I see. The author has to just not make a character look handsome. They have to present them in a way that makes them appear handsome. Yeah. That's something to take away. I'm going to remember that when I draw, characters like Ace and stuff like that. It's not just all about looks. It's about presentation and personality and all that kind of stuff. It all feeds in.
Yeah. Especially if you present motivations that can make or break. I mean, you can have a character be perfect in behavior, but if you give them the wrong motivation and the audience is privy to that, then they will not like that character, no matter how objectively by the book he or she is going in order to come across as that.
Right.
Yeah,
and so on and so forth.
I think that's the note we should probably end on, so we don't have a 2-hour cast. But yeah, I think that's really helpful to comic makers to be able to know this stuff. Okay, well, thank you guys for being part of Quackcast number 353. This has been...
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And thank Pit wherever she is. I think she had the house is burning down or something.
Yeah, it's a fire alarm. And
so casual.
we are now currently watching her room go up in flames.
Yeah.
And she's smelling like a long pig currently. All right. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, piggy.